I think we both agree that there is no disadvantage. And if you want to go for it, go for it. Most of the time, it's us who decide that there is a barrier. We set up barriers that don't exist.
Yep.
We are the ones that think, my English is not perfect, so I better don't apply for that job because I better get my English better, or other people have more experience than me.
I think that the adversity that you create is in your own mind. I never walked into a role thinking, I didn't get it because I'm a woman, or I'm a woman of color, or I'm from another country. I never thought of it that way. I was like, I've got all this amazing experience. And I think like you, I spent a lot of time doing work experience and for free and just building up the rapport, the connections, the experience. I think that really helps. Welcome to the She Sells podcast. I'm here today with Naysla, who is the VP Marketing at AMEX. And I'm really excited to have this chat together today. Welcome, Naysla.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
I'd love to start with your story. I know that you're from Colombia, which is really cool and really unique. And you came to Australia, was it 20 years ago?
So I've been in Australia twice. I originally moved here in 2000 to come and learn English here. And then I will tell you my story in a little bit, but then I left again in 2008 and came back in 2015. So 10-year anniversary return to Australia.
It's very similar to me. I went and came back as well from the UK. So tell me, how was the transition coming from Colombia to Australia and making a career for yourself in marketing? And, you know, you're now working for American Express, which I know a lot of people would idolize to work at a brand like that. It's such a iconic brand. So tell me what that was like coming to Australia and trying to get a job in marketing. How did that happen for you?
It's a great question. Brings me back to great memories. So, look, I came to Australia to learn English. So I finished uni in Colombia. I have a degree in business management. And then I worked for a year for an advertising agency, Food Conan Building, FCB. Before that, I did an internship with AC Nielsen, which is the largest media measurement company in the world. And when I did my internship at Nielsen, which is what led me to getting the job at FCB, I was exposed to a lot of global accounts, global brands. And I was fascinated to look at these marketers that had these roles that encompass multiple countries. And all of them spoke perfect English, even though they were based in Colombia. And I realized, okay, I need to learn English because, you know, I had that desire to really see the world. And I felt that I had so much to offer. Love Colombia, love my country, but I felt that I had so much to offer beyond Colombia. So I set up a goal. I started to work for FCB, which is a wonderful experience working for a wonderful leader, a female leader. But I decided right there, even before I started that role, that I was going to work 1 year and I was going to go overseas to an English-speaking country to learn English. That was my goal. So eventually I could move into a global regional role. So that's what I did. I worked for a year for FCB, and then I took time off from the work to come to Australia. I ended up coming here to Australia for two reasons. The first one, my godparents live here. So I had a family that could welcome me here and support me. But the second one was I look at the US, I look at the UK, all fascinating places, but actually Australia had a lot to offer as a student. Very welcoming country. The process was just actually quite welcoming and quite manageable. So I came to Australia. I mean, it's a different culture. It's far from home, right? It takes us like 23 hours to get door to door. But what I noticed immediately about Australia was how multicultural it was, right? People from all different places. It was unbelievable. Like, I've been to New York and other places, but I felt that here I could truly experience that multicultural approach to living, to inclusivity. And therefore, look, yes, the language was difficult. I mean, I didn't speak the language, so it's hard, right? When you're trying to live your day-to-day, go to school to learn the language, trying to work, because I was very early trying to get a job so I could help financially myself and my parents at the time who were supporting me. But equally, I mean, there is a lot of differences, right, between living in Colombia and living here. I love the beach culture. I mean, I always been living in Sydney, and I did love that amazing opportunity to have the water so close. I live originally from Bogota, which is like in the center of the country. So just a beautiful lifestyle. Like I think people really value here the time that they have with their family, with their friends, their free time, but people work hard. And the other thing that I remember thinking about Australians was the love for sport. Like in Colombia, we love football, soccer, and everyone is very passionate. But here, I felt like every sport was important, rugby, cricket. So learning a lot of sports I never heard in my entire life, like netball, for example. I knew basketball.
Really?
But never in my life I have seen a game of netball. And now my daughter plays netball. Okay. But back then I was thinking there is so much phenomenal passion for sports here, which actually I think it leads to a very healthy competitive approach to Australians. And that was my older observation back then. It was people here wanted to do well, to move forward. You know, people are passionate, people bring their best ideas. But personally, the main thing that really made me feel at home was how welcoming Australians were. I have never felt that I haven't fit in. And I got a job pretty much 2 months after arriving here.
Wow.
I got a job with a company called GE Capital at the time. Then I got a job working for Carlson Wagon Lead Travel, and then the rest is history. I ended up joining American Express, and and I left because the job took me to see many different places, which was a dream of mine. But now I'm back here and love this country.
Yeah, I love that. That's so inspiring because I think that you come to a country that isn't your first language. And Australia is kind of unique in the sense that, you know, you watch American TV or British TV. Most people who are learning English tend to do that to kind of learn how to learn the slang and, you know, how to tell a joke and that sort of thing. Sarcasm's a really interesting one. So it sounds like you had such a great start in Australia and managed to land yourself a job after job after job. Did you ever find any challenges with having an accent or not speaking English as your first language? Because I know that a lot of people come here with dreams and hopes. On the odd occasion, there is that accent bias that is sometimes there. And maybe people don't realize that they're doing it. But we have definitely seen it, especially in the sales environment. Different accents work really well and some don't. But I've also noticed that in a corporate setting.
Such a good question. It's interesting because living in Colombia and you've been from Britain, like I was exposed to a different English than Australian English, right? Like American English was pretty much the English that I was exposed most of my life.
Yeah.
So as I was learning English, just understanding the Australian accent was difficult for me. So you talk about my own accent, but even myself was, I mean, I have the best stories about getting on the bus, like going to school. And I remember people will get on the bus and greet the driver. Good morning, mate. And I was like, what are they saying? And I thought the name of the driver was Mike. So I will get on the bus and I'm like, good morning, Mike. And then the driver changed and it's another Mike. And I'm like, how many Mikes in this country, right? So it's like, no, it's mate. And you feel really silly because he's like, I just did not understand that. I thought they were calling him Mike, but they were saying good morning, mate. And it's also, I mean, I'm married to an English now, but very well known and used in Britain. But I never heard it before, mate. So even just trying to learn the language was very different. But from my perspective and my own accent, it was through the transition of learning the language. It was not easy. And I don't think it was never that people were not doing their best to try to understand me. It was simply, firstly, there was a lot of vocabulary that I didn't have. I mean, to be honest with you, I think I learn a new word still every day.
Yeah.
But it was difficult, I think, from all the people that were doing jobs like the ones and I was doing very simple jobs. Like there was a job I was doing at Carlson Wagon Lead Travel, which was data entry operator. I mean, my role simply was to input information into a computer. But if people call me or if people needed to ask me for something, I will answer the phone and it was very difficult to understand what the person was saying on the other side of the line. And a lot of the times I will say to them, look, thank you. I would love to help you, but can you send me an email? And I learned really quickly to say, send me an email so I could translate and then I could help. So that has nothing to do with people not doing their best to support people that come with accents, or I think it was really me. And then you start to develop like your confidence levels, right? Get impacted because you're like, wow, I used to do all this. I could understand everybody. Everybody could understand me, but now I'm really struggling. But it was because of my own language barrier. I will say, however, that I think people were very receptive to the fact that they knew it wasn't my first language, and obviously that I was still trying to learn the language. People were patient with me, and I'm very, very thankful for that. Now, to your question, maybe the roles that I did help that. Maybe, the roles in Australia, when you have an accent, is harder. Like, let's think of customer service or other roles that sometimes you might be calling because you're having an issue or something like that. And then it's difficult, right? Because you're in a very different position. But I think the roles that I did, everyone was very understanding. And I always felt very much acknowledged that it wasn't my first language, but people very patient to support me and to take the time to understand it.
Yeah. And so now you're in a role, VP of Marketing, Brand and Member Experience. And working for such a global brand is amazing. That is an aspirational role for any leader. And yourself as a female, I really would love to understand, how have you found not only moving up in the ranks in your career, but also navigating the challenges that women do have, whether it be stepping up and taking the role and finding your way through? Tell me a bit about your journey.
I shared a little bit before about how I ended up coming here to Australia. And I think that first job that I mentioned with Carlson Wagonlit Travel, who I ended up working for 8 years, it was a phenomenal journey. I think that was a moment of transformation, a pivotal moment for me, because firstly, I mean, let's go back a little bit, but when you think about it, when I left Colombia, I had graduated from uni. I have done some very incredible internships where I felt I was already building a lot of experience. I joined an advertising agency where I had a role already kind of, it sets you up to start to move up your career. When I moved to Australia, you have to kind of start from zero again. And I was okay with that. And I many times I say to colleagues, to friends, or when I am speaking to an audience, I normally say, there are times in your career that is absolutely okay to go backwards to move forward. And that's what happened to me back then. I moved completely to zero, right? Start from data entry operator, which is all absolutely perfectly phenomenal jobs. But from where I was, it felt my family was like, oh my God, like, you moved to another country and you have done all this and you're now entering numbers into a computer, right? They couldn't understand that. But I'm like, look, you have to remember what your objective is and why I came here. I'm learning English. I'm actually so lucky to get a job so quickly and have the opportunity to keep learning. Now, I did that for a while. That was the IT department, information technology department I was working. So how did I end up in travel and IT? Never planned. But I have always seized the opportunities. I could have gone, no, I'm sorry, already have this degree and I want to be a marketer and this is the job I should deserve. No, right? It doesn't really matter. Like, if you get the opportunity to do something that is going to progress you in that particular objective, let's do it. So got my career at Carlson, but I did that job in IT. Eventually, I became a permanent resident. Eventually, I became a citizen. So also a personal journey within the process. And I started to work very closely to the client management team, which partner management and relationship management and negotiation was always part of my passions. And eventually, I ended up becoming an account manager at Carlson Wagonlit Travel. So, if you're patient, you will go back to where you left it, and eventually you actually gonna go beyond you even dreamed you were ever gonna be. But it's always about just that attitude of, this job doesn't feel like the perfect job that I dreamed with, but it's gonna take me forward. And as long as I keep growing. And the reason I left Carlson, because it was a brilliant business as well, and it still is today. But I became an account manager, then eventually I became a national account manager. Then eventually I was running the second largest account in the country, which is the New South Wales government, all their travel management program. So it got to the point of remembering your goal and your objective. And remember, I said before, when I was at Nielsen, I wanted to see the world. I wanted to get into global roles. I wanted to get into a role that will give me the opportunity to see different cultures. And at that moment, even though I was doing really great at CWT, I thought to myself, okay, where did you leave that dream of getting into a global, multicultural, multi-market role?
Definitely.
So the conversation at Carlson is like, whenever there is an opportunity for a regional role or a global role, I will be very interested. But at that point in time, I got connected to a colleague at American Express, and we just got talking. And eventually he called me one day and said, we have a role for you, and it's a regional role. It's your dream. You're going to manage all these accounts across Asia Pacific. And I'm like, that's it. Like, you just have to remember. So I was very grateful to CWT, but ended up moving to American Express Business Travel. That was my first job at AMEX in 2006. And it was a great job. I was traveling around Asia. I was managing incredible accounts. And I did that job for 18 months. And when I arrived, I could see a lot of people have been in the same role for a while. It doesn't matter what your passion is, but I was thinking there is so much opportunity in this organization, and the culture is just terrific. So they're constantly investing on your development, on what's next for Naysla, how we're going to develop you.
Yeah.
So I only did this job for 18 months, and I moved to a new role. Actually, no, it was less than that. It was about 12 months, and I moved to a different role. It was a completely new created role. So one of the accounts I was managing, they wanted an outsourced travel manager. And they said to Amex, okay, well, Amex, can you deliver that service? So it means I stay working for American Express, but I will become the travel procurement manager for this organization.
Okay.
And I did that, and that was for Southeast Asia. So I left the Amex building, and I moved into the client's building and did that for another 12 months. And eventually I got offered an opportunity to move to Singapore and become a director working in our super premium travel benefits across our Centurion Platinum cards. I think my point here is that my journey hasn't been linear. I have moved backward, I have moved forward, but it's always about remembering what drives you, what your passions are.
Yeah.
A yes attitude, and I'm not saying you have to say yes to everything. It's totally okay to say no. But I think it's important to always consider opportunities that might be outside of what you really are after at that point in your time, because they might be just another step into getting to where you want to go.
Yes.
And then, I mean, I'm happy to continue telling you more about Amex, but that was my journey to get into American Express.
Yeah. I feel like the story that you have is that even though there might have been a step back to take 2 steps forward, you always had a really strong drive, ambition, and passion for advertising and marketing, and actually wanting to be in that space. So it was okay to, start somewhere. When I did exactly the same thing as you. When I first came to Australia, I had a backpack, but I left a big job in London working for the first Westfield in London, which was in Shepherd's Bush.
Wow.
And this was 2008 to 2010. We were working on that massive development. And actually, I was looking after all the experiential activity.
Oh, wow.
And out-of-home media and connecting the dots and working with big brands. It was so much fun. And I was like, this is just a dream job for me. Then they were saying, let's go do the Olympic Village. And they're doing another Westfield over there.
I remember that Westfield. We
Yes.
were there.
Oh,
Amex
okay.
was there.
Oh, my goodness. So I decided not to take that job and go traveling. The World Cup was on, the Football World Cup in South Africa. And I was like, I really want to go. So I traveled the whole of Africa, Asia, and then I finished in Sydney. And I came here and I was like, I'm going to get an awesome job. And I went to Westfield, and they gave me a job recommendation that was out in the middle of nowhere, Liverpool, and said, here, do this shopping centre. And I went, you do realise I've just come from the global standard site. What about Bondi? What about Sydney? There wasn't any room at that time. So I was like, you know what, maybe it's time for a change.
I love it.
So I went and worked on Better Homes and Gardens. Could you think of anything more Australian?
Wow.
So, and I was dialing. I was doing expo sales. And I was like, okay, I'm going to just take a pay cut, do the dials, get the sales in. And it was so different to what I was doing from experiential marketing. But I was still connecting the brands together, Better Homes and Gardens with, home brands, whether it be Lavazza Coffee or Samsung Appliances. So I was talking to all these brands.
So Better Home and Gardens as in the magazine?
Yeah, the magazine, but they did a live event, the big live expo that they run with all the stages.
Okay.
I was working for that.
Fascinating.
And then I ended up working my way up and doing sponsorships. And I very quickly did that within 9 months. and then signed one of the biggest deals they had with LG. And then I had a door knock from Qantas. So I went from Better Homes and Gardens to Qantas, two like big Aussie brands.
Yes.
This was a very quick way to learn how Aussies do things slightly differently. And when I first arrived here, I don't know if you had this, I thought everything was really slow. From London to Sydney,
Right.
I was like, the letting agents are slow, the recruitment agents are slow, the copy is slow. But I'd learned to like pace myself and get into the groove.
So interesting. So it's slow in terms of people executing anything or more on decision making?
Both. I think that I was like
Right,
so
how
fast in London. You know, everything just sounded like a rat race. You know, we're all just the quickest one there would get the win. And it was just so much more competitive. And it was just came to Australia and I was like, this is what work-life balance feels like. Everyone leaves on time.
Yes, okay.
And goes home and its sun's still shining so I can enjoy some of that. So it was really different.
Interesting you say that because, and actually I forgot to mention that before, but one huge difference moving to Australia was the operating hours of retail and even dining and restaurants. Like in Colombia, you go to the mall, I think some are open 24/7.
Yeah.
And people work very late hours, which that's when you start to appreciate that balance and appreciation of, okay, it's 5, 6 p.m., maybe I still have time for a swim, and maybe I work a little bit later. In Colombia, you do work very long hours. So if I needed to buy anything after work, I will find something open. Sundays didn't even open. And I remember I needed to get something. This is right at the beginning, and everything is shut down. I'm like, is there a problem? Is there a security situation?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Where is everybody?
Everything shuts early.
The CBD was dead.
Dead. Yeah.
That was wow. Like what happened? But now that together we're reflecting being from overseas, is people were just respecting and appreciating the time at home or the time with their families or their personal time.
You are forced to slow down.
Absolutely.
But also when you come from a country that the pace is high, the hours are long, you can bring that work ethic here. And you very quickly prove that you're a hard worker. You're going to put in the hours. You're going to go the distance. So I think that's really valuable. I think that coming here and, you know, even with an accent, even with diversity that we bring to the industry, we're still able to climb the ladder. So I don't think that anyone should feel that they're disadvantaged anyway. Just go for it. Hold the vision strong.
I think super interesting that point because I think we both agree that there is no disadvantage. And if you want to go for it, go for it. Most of the time is us who decide that there is a barrier. We set up barriers that don't exist.
Yep.
We are the ones that think my English is not perfect, so I better don't apply for that job because I better get my English better, or other people have more experience than me. Particularly in Australia, that's another thing I noticed was that a lot of people wouldn't have a full bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
But they will have
don't even
phenomenal jobs.
Yeah.
While back home in Colombia, it's so competitive, right? That you kind of do need to skill yourself. So here, like if you love something, if you're passionate about something and you just put the effort on it, it's possible.
Yeah.
And I think this country really allows to dream big.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that the adversity that you create is in your own mind. Like you say, like I've never really thought about it until the last few years. How as a young, say 25 to 35, when I was really pushing my career, I never walked into a role thinking I didn't get it because I'm a woman or I'm a woman of color or I'm from another country, or I never thought of it that way. I was like, I've got all this amazing experience. And I think like you, I spent a lot of time doing work experience and for free and just building up the rapport, the connections, the experience. I think that really helps.
Absolutely. And I exactly feel the same. I never failed because I'm female. I think I remember the longest time I have taken out of work was when I had my daughter. But I had 3 months off.
Yeah.
And my husband, actually very kind at the time, we have moved to Paris. That's another story. So Isabella was born in Paris, but John stayed home with Izzy and I could go back to work.
Yeah.
It was a new job in France. I was eager to get into the job. So that's the other very important aspect I think is important to touch on is your support system.
Yes.
The people that are, and I'm not sure if you have a lot of family here, but I don't. I mentioned my godparents. They are my parents away from home. But it's my husband, Izzy, myself. We have wonderful, wonderful friends here that have become family. And you start to build a support system that is going to help you. And then your partner or whatever your circumstances is, who's helping you, right? Who's lending you a hand. So you, like John could have been like, well, I need to get a job, so you probably need to take 12 months. But he knew how important this job was for me. He was actually happy to take a bit of a sabbatical. And he was really excited about spending time with Izzy. So you do need to, like the people that are your support system, you do need to align on what's important to all of you. And I feel very lucky that I have had tremendous support. And my family in Colombia, even more, my mom, my brother, it's just amazing. So I'm super grateful for the people that have backed me in my life and in my career.
Yeah, it's so interesting because we've had a fair few women in leadership sit in the seat. And the pattern that I've heard is that they've had supportive partners and also champions in their career, people that would elevate, and specifically men, which is amazing. Yeah, I really love that having a supportive partner, sometimes not though, you know, there are challenges that come along the way. What do you feel like has been your biggest challenge, whether it be personal or professional, in getting to where you are today?
My biggest challenge, I can't think of a challenge as such to get to where I have got. I think there has been a number of situations or times in my career where probably I wanted to move faster through a specific path that I couldn't move faster, but at times it has been really accelerated. So I wouldn't call it a challenge because I'm very grateful of all the experiences, but maybe something to call out is, so I mentioned to you, I moved to Singapore. So when I moved to Singapore, it was just my husband and I. We lived there for about 3 years and I fell pregnant there. And that's when we moved to France. That's what I mentioned before. My daughter was born in Paris, but I had a job there that I really was looking forward to do. It was all about lifestyle dining. It was all my passion areas, and I think most people really. When Isabella turned 2, my husband had a moment of, I need to go back to work. France is going to be really difficult for me. You kind of like, at a national level, you kind of do need the language, which he didn't have. We were trying to learn, but not at the level of being able for him to go and find a job. It wasn't a challenge, but we did need to work through, okay, well, you have supported me so much. I need to also make sure I'm listening to you and what's important to you. So at that point, we made the decision that it was time to leave France. And I love my job. Absolutely loved it. But interestingly, simultaneously, at AMEX, and I'm sure many organizations have this, you get a number of mentors. You know, people invest time in you. And I had one of my mentors was based in London because I spent a lot of time between France and England. And I remember he was saying to me, as this all was happening, he was saying to me, Naysla, you want a career at AMEX, right? And I'm like, absolutely, right? You show that commitment. And he said, well, your jobs, the jobs that you have done, they're all global, they're all regional, phenomenal. But you've always been a center of excellence, right? You have never really worked in a market. And I think if you want to build a career at AMEX, you do need to go back to one market, choose one country where you really get deep into understanding how do we operate? How do we make money? How do we manage all the complexities of running a business at a local level? And he was absolutely spot on. So I was in that moment of my husband. He's like, okay, I think we need a change now. And then the business is telling me, because these are senior leaders that will absolutely give you this advice with the best intent, saying you probably need to now get into a single market role.
They can see the pathway.
So it was like, that moment was like, let's find a new role. For me, talking to my wonderful leader at the time who was based in France and say, well, Mehdi, I need to shift. And he's like, why, right? And it's like, well, this, all the discussions, phenomenal leader. I remember Mehdi came. So it was either going to the UK or coming to Australia. John was a little bit, I feel like I haven't done my time in Australia. I'm British. I'm not sure if I'm ready to go back home. So we really wanted to come back to Australia. So my leader came here for a business trip and he went back. He talked to everybody about me. there is Naysla, this is what she does. I think you should, if you have a job. Eventually, a role came available in Australia very quickly when this is all happening. And I got to apply for the role. I interviewed with the most incredible leaders. All of them are friends of mine today. And I got the job. And we moved back to Australia in 2015 with my daughter, my husband. My husband got a job probably 2-3 months after we moved. As I said, I wouldn't call it a challenge, but I probably would have stayed longer in Europe. I did love that job, but I love my job now. And if I haven't listened to my mentor and also appreciate what John was going through personally and professionally, he wanted to refresh his career, right? I don't know where I will be, but where I am today, I'm just so happy to be holding this role today and what I have got to do for Australia, what I have done already, but what is still in the pipeline.
Yeah.
So look, and there will be situations like that will come again.
Yeah.
And it's just how you face them. And I think the attitude that you take towards solving problems, like what we do at work every day, but also on a personal level.
So much travel there, Singapore, France, maybe London.
The UK,
then back to the,
we did go first to the UK for a while before we came back, but fantastic.
Yeah,
very
same.
grateful.
And I think that when you do that, when you do travel and you do try out different regions and different countries, the world feels so small. And even after COVID now, I feel like the world got smaller. Like we have clients all over the world. You can work remotely and have amazing relationships. I think that's really aspirational. And I think that now your role at AMEX is really diverse. And I know that you've worked through a number of departments and now in marketing. One of the key things that we talk about on this podcast is sales and marketing and how to marry that relationship up. Tell me how you do that within your role and how that's sort of come through working in multiple different facets of the business, right?
Everyone at AMEX in Australia sits at the table together, particularly when we have to face big projects, big challenges, or big opportunities. We all sit at the table. Now, when it comes to the sales and marketing organization, I mean, it's a marriage, right? You have to work really close together.
I know that we talked about emotive marketing and experiences, and I love your LinkedIn, by the way. The posts about the experiential that you're doing, it's eye candy for me. Tell me, how do you bring out that emotive feeling in the marketing? Like, how do you inject that? What have you seen working?
First of all, before you get into doing anything, you need to have a customer insight. You need to have an insight that will drive your strategy. What are we going to do? It has to meet a customer need. We spend a lot of time researching on, let's go back one step, sorry. So if you think about American Express, our value proposition is about backing customers, backing colleagues, backing communities. So it's about the powerful backing of American Express. And you know our famous tagline, don't live life without it, don't do business without it. But it's all about backing. It's about enhancing, showing you that when you hold an American Express card, if it's a personal card, how we're making your life better.
Yeah.
How
you feel when you
how
hold
you
it.
feel about it.
So
Same
important.
for the business, but on the business side, right? We spend a lot of time, and we have done this for a number of years, in understanding what are the motivations, the passion areas of our customers. And look, it's not rocket science. It always comes back to the same passion areas. Travel, our customers love travel. So when you have prospect customers that are about to travel, American Express comes top of mind, right? That's the consideration. Our customers love dining out, restaurants, cafes, bars is an absolute passion. They love entertainment. Music, right, is an area that we have doubled down our efforts because we know that people, everyone, doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter your background, everybody loves music, right? And it brings people together. And people love also fashion. Like, I think particularly the younger generation, they just love fashion. So upon validating all these, we decided in order to drive that emotional connection to customers as well as prospects, well, we need to absolutely do the best job on those passion areas and show them that we can make their life better, that we can enhance the experience. So that's what has led us to really invest a lot of effort into making our experiences excellent. And we're talking about experiences, right? It's not just experiential marketing, but it's the feeling of doing something that makes you feel happier, better, that makes people feel FOMO. right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I want that.
Yeah.
So when I think of some of the most recent experiences we have done, maybe let's start with music, right? And let's go with Dua Lipa, who just literally left the country, right? We do the pre-sale for Dua Lipa, but then we don't stop there. We did a pop-up store in the CBD in Sydney where people could come and buy all the merchandise for Dua Lipa in an easier step. They don't have to queue at the concert, like those queues buying merchandise.
Yeah.
A lot more range than what we normally have at the arenas.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. One of the nights, actually, Dua Lipa herself ended up coming into the pop-up store. So that was a surprise for a few customers that were there.
That's amazing.
But once you get into the concert time, here in Sydney or in Melbourne, we have American Express lounges. So people can go to these lounges, they show their card. So rather than just waiting around the arena until the doors open or sitting inside the arena until the concert opens, you can actually go and enjoy a nice drink or a bite with your friends. You can have a chat and then you go to the concert. It feels like a full night out.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, we had an activation at the arena, more for younger people. We were doing like a lot of dancing and they could go through different activations to try to experience more the world of Dua Lipa and her latest album release. So when you come to a concert, it's not anymore sit, watch the concert, leave, right? It's all the pre and post that you can enjoy. So we just always try to make the experience just beyond what the customer can expect. And I think the other one that I feel super proud about is the Formula One. This is our first year. So 2025 was our first year in Australia to be the main payments partner of the F1. The relationship with Formula One started in the Americas. So in 2024, we activated in the US, in Canada, in Mexico. But it's been so successful that American Express globally decided, well, I think we should do this across a number of regions and countries. So Australia is the first race of the year. And it's amazing with our global teams is that they give us a lot of, even though they get very involved, they give us a lot of opportunity on how we're going to do it here in Australia and make it meaningful for Australians. Yeah. So we look at the space. We thought, okay, well, I think the lounge, we can get, like, it was a 2-story building. We made it a 3-story building. We got involved.
Pictures look amazing.
Amazing.
So amazing.
We had dining pop-up with Movida, which is, you probably been from Melbourne, know that Movida is a place to go if you want to eat delicious food. So we had the pop-up, which never existed before. We did activations at the lakeside area. That's where all the concerts happen. We had a 2-story building there, so all our card members could watch all the Q&As with the drivers as well as all the concerts. Like I got to see Tons and I there live from a really like a easy place to watch it. And also we have activation for fans. So for everyone, we had a number of activations that they could access, being card member or non-card member. So we can also show non-card members everything that AMEX has to offer. So that's emotional connection. Like when customers email me or people email me on LinkedIn or wherever and go, Naysla, that was just the most amazing F1. And thanks to AMEX, I got tickets. You got me that drink. I had dinner at Movida. The lounge was amazing. You feel great. And that's the response we want from our customers is that when they are with AMEX, it's like we gave them something that made it very special and all underpinned, right? We have 3 pillars that are called pillars for the company. Service, number 1, trust, and security, right? Okay. And that's the incremental, is all those experiences that we do.
It's so iconic. I think that you've done such an amazing job, you and the team. And I think that every time I see AMEX, right, every time I see the brand, it's a fully connected experience. And what I love is that it's still physical. It's human. You're still activating, even though everyone's doing the digital thing. I think it's really amazing to see that come to life. And like I said, whenever I see new images pop up on your LinkedIn, it's people are engaging even on a B2B level as well. And I think that everyone should check out what you're doing in the space. And I'm really sad because we've come to the end of this podcast and I feel like we've got another episode possibly coming. But I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. And I just want to put it out there. How can people connect with you and what's the best place to find you online?
That's a great question. I mean, definitely if you connect with me or follow me in LinkedIn, you'll find a lot of the things we do, I normally talk about it there. We have some very exciting things coming up really, really soon. So people should definitely tune in. Instagram as well, like that's another channel I use. I'm very accessible. Like when people email me, I do my best to connect with everybody. And I get emails from people that are students or they're looking to get into marketing or looking for someone to talk about career. And I try to make myself as available as I can. So yeah, that's the best way to do it. Just LinkedIn. LinkedIn is going to be the easiest.
Yes, that's amazing. Thank you for spending time with us on the podcast at She Sells and sharing your journey. And we look forward to having you back again.
Oh, thank you so much. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank
Me
you.
too.